Hi, everybody, and welcome to this episode of the Accountants Club podcast. I'm joined today by Kevin Whitehouse. Kevin is the founder and runs a business called Primary Accounting, and you've done so since 1991, I believe, Kevin.
I know, it's hard to believe, isn't it? It is
It is.
1991.
You don't look old enough.
I know. That's what everybody says.
Thank you for joining us. You've recently published a book. I know you do a lot of coaching, mentoring. You're a busy guy.
Try not to be too busy, try to sort of get a nice balance to it. But yes, just recently launched a book called The Business Stress Buster Blueprint. And it's targeted to business owners who are struggling with stress, worry and overwhelm. And we have a process which we call the mashup method, which we put people through it, take them on a journey and get rid of all that stress from it.
So yeah. What does that involve, the mashup
What's that involved? Yeah, it's a whole series of stuff. Let me grab a coffee a second.
Yeah, no worries.
Right. It is the three elements that we look at within a business. We focus on is your systems, we focus on your pricing, and we focus on something called positioning. And we've learned over the 30 plus years that we've been doing that, if we take those three core elements and we dig deep into them, we often unearth the sort of bits and pieces of business that or what business owners require to build a strong, sustainable business. And if you build a strong, sustainable business, it's making money, you then alleviate the stresses, the worries, and the overwhelm. And so sort of the two go hand in hand. Generally speaking, when people arrive in our life, sort of takes them about 18 months to sort of climb in and get into it. And when they arrive there, some of the results we've had over the years are spectacular, particularly even through the pandemic. We've had some really amazing results where the pandemic actually made people stop and actually absorb what we've been telling them for years. And some people said that to us, as well, we're sitting around doing nothing. So we actually read your book, Kevin, and we watched your videos and we thought, let's try this. And they did. And they had amazing results, which from our point of view is just, it's wonderful to see.
Are there any in particular that stand out for you, Kev?
We've got several stories, but I mean, we've got a couple that were making, regularly 150, 200 grand a year for years and years and years and years. Pandemic came, they stopped working for about 3 or 4 months. They just turned in 30th of June, their second £1 million net turnover.
Wow.
So that's a big difference.
That's a big difference.
We've got a folk duo, slight qualifier. They are our sons, but they still qualify as clients. And of course, the pandemic came, all their gigs cancelled, no music, just like every other musician. We developed some things that they could work on, and they are absolutely storming it at the moment.
Brilliant.
Booked up with gigs, booked up with other things that they've transferred their service skills into. And one of them is a musical walking holiday that they created, and they've sold out. They've sold out 3 years worth of holidays already as a result.
Wow.
High-end, high-ticket items. And it's just been spectacular to watch, and lots of others as well. People who have just doubled, trebled their profits over the, not just through the pandemic, but coming out, and we're seeing the continued results because they've changed the fundamentals, which is what we talk about. Yeah.
So I guess there's sort of two aspects to the conversation I wanted to have with you today. The first one is about the customers and the clients, the examples of what you've done and how you've transformed people's businesses, but also about the practice as well. Because you've been running a practice a long time.
Yeah.
So you must have noticed some really significant. I mean, I've been around a similar amount of time in the industry. On the other side of it, of course, I've been on the software side of it. But from a practice perspective, you must have noticed some enormous changes in the 30 years that you've been practicing.
Yeah, I mean, I started off, when I was like, 18, 19 years old, doing this accountancy lark, driving to the office every day. This is before computers. We were calculators and pens and pencils and sort of thing, and producing accounts. And then as the technology has sort of developed, the process is still there. Of course, you still got to produce accounts and tax. There is a need for that, but personally, I think that pretty much anybody can do it now. And the way I describe it is, if you're a willing volunteer, you can learn how to do it. And yes, of course, there is a skill beyond just producing accounts and tax. There's tax planning and the professional skill at that level. But just cranking out a set of accounts and a tax return is the software does it, and it's just better and better and better. So that means that the only industry, if you're just doing accounts and tax, which is what we were, we had 450 clients, 10 members of staff, and we were just a factory of bringing in the raw records, which is the bad books and records, turning them into something, putting them into basically iris and producing accounts and tax at the end of it. The only way to compete in that is to be cheaper and cheaper and cheaper. And what the technology has done, and I've seen a huge amount of this, is that as the pressure has built within the practice, the staff members have basically looked at this and went, you know, I sod this for a game of soldiers. This is hard. This is hard.
Do you think that's contributing to the talent shortage?
A little bit, yeah. They're just, you know, any decent accountant or bookkeeper who is good at their job, who is under immense stress and pressure, particularly these sort of stupid, you know, 31st of January deadlines. And you get to sort of October, November, December, and the staff are under so much pressure with the thought of doing weekends and evenings all over Christmas. They've only got to say to themselves, look, we can go and sit at home, we can grab ourselves a laptop, we can go and get some software, we can pick off, you know, cherry pick 12, 15, 20 decent clients, and you can make a really good living doing that if you look after those clients properly and do that. And that's what they'll do, and they have done. I've, you know, over the years, I've built up big clients and build up good relationships and put staff in, and then watch the staff take those clients off and do exactly that. And I think that will happen more and more. So I think you may be able to tell me that statistically, there's probably more accountants out there in business, but less staff to work for those, because all those accountants are the staff that have left because the stress and the pressure is there. I mean, it's nuts to expect the levels of production. I mean, I've been mentoring accountants over the last couple of years as well, and I've seen people saying, you know, we've got to do 80% chargeable on your timesheets. You're not going to do 80% unless you turn up 2 hours early in the morning and stay 2 hours late at night, which is just stress, pressure, and, you know, sheer overwhelm. And the price of a tax return today, I'm speaking to somebody only this week, they're charging £150 for a tax return. Right. We were charging 250 30 years ago. You know, and when I tell them what I charge for a tax return, they go, well, how do you sleep at night? Well, very well, thank you very much. My clients pay me. And I almost can't, you almost can't do it for £150. By the time you take out the software costs and the labor costs, and it's like, what are we doing it for? You know?
Where in your view then, as things like that start to become more, let's call it commoditized for the sake of the conversation, as it become more commoditized, where does the industry go? What's next for accountants in practice?
I think it's really become commoditized in the last probably 10 years, and today it's more commoditized than ever. It's only going to get worse. It's only going to get worse. There's even a video on anti-money laundering, which I think the Revenue and the Institute put together, really well put together film. And even in there, they're talking about, well, let's see if we can cut the price on these jobs. And it's like, the industry has got, you know, if the industry keeps going, let's see if we can win some business by cutting the price. Carry on. You know, you'll win clients by cutting the price. But eventually you'll just be making less and less and less money, and eventually it'll just implode on you. But where it goes for the future, the ideal model that I would say is to have less clients but go deeper with them.
Okay. Can you give me some examples? Because a lot of people I talk to, you hear people talking about CAS or advisory services. You know, it's got many, and people have been talking about that for 15 years more, maybe. What when you say go deeper, what specifically? What do you mean? So
I'll give you a real example of a client that I picked up about 2 or 3 weeks ago. He's got his bookkeeping on zero. Mm-hmm. And I was just talking to him at a completely different event, and he just found out I was an accountant. He said, I got a question. I'm looking at my zero figures, and I've got this number on my balance sheet for director's loan account. And he told me a bit about what he does. And within seconds, I could figure out what the size of the business was and roughly what it was going to be. And he told me, it was like, it looks wrong. And I said, it probably is wrong, because that doesn't sound right. So anyway, I said, well, you know, have a call with me, let's talk about it. And he showed me the figures, and it took me a nanosecond to realize that not only was that figure wrong, but so were all the opening balances. In other words, the accountant has done the accounts, has not put the opening balances into the books, and now the client is looking at the data going, what is this nonsense?
And this was an accountant who entered the opening balances. It wasn't done by the client.
So the opening balances were not done by the accountant.
Okay.
Right. So the client is sitting there with a set of data. We're talking about 31st of August 21 year end. We're talking about May 2022, and the 31st of August 20 figures have not been updated into zero.
Okay.
He's sitting looking at these figures because he wants to make some decisions, scratching his head, says, "This doesn't make sense." Of course it doesn't make sense, because it's wrong. Fundamentally, we think it may have even been wrong the previous year as well. So the whole of this thing is just wrong. It's a mess.
Yeah.
But the clients are now seeing this stuff in the cloud. They're not stupid, because if it looks wrong, it probably is wrong.
Yeah.
And whose fault is it? Well, the accountant's fault.
Yeah.
So they then immediately blame the accountant. I said, well, I can sort this out for you, of course. Okay. The accountant charges this client £450 a year. Okay. We said we can help you for 550 a month.
Okay.
He said, yeah, no problem. When do we start? Price was not an issue.
Yeah.
Price was not an issue. 550 a month versus 450 a year.
So what was his motivation then, Kevin, to kind of accept that level of difference?
The client's motivation is he's looking at this data, he's looking at his business, he's looking at the future. Things have got to change, the economy, everything's coming at it, and he's going, I need to make some decisions. I need to do some forecasting. I need to think about what I want to do in my business. I want to change the direction of my business, and I want to fundamentally understand my numbers. I want to understand what I've got. I want to know what the starting position is. Once you've got the starting position and you run that data, the clients can run their books daily and see their data daily. It's one of the reasons.
It's less about after the fact reporting from an accountant and much more about looking forward.
And if you think about it right now, this is going to be a time, and I suspect this is going to be a time where it's going to be painful for accountants to talk to their clients. And I mean painful for the realization. Over the next 6 months, accounts are going to be produced for the year end 31st of March or 31st of December. And the accountant's going to say in unison, wow, last year was a bit of a bad year for you. Yeah, I wonder why that was. There's something called COVID. We all know that. What you're telling me is useless. Absolutely useless, and bears no resemblance on what I'm going to do next year. And the client is now facing forward. Those that are looking to do something are got their antennae up, their ears up, their eyes wide open, because the world's a bit rough out there. Let's go make some money. Let's make it happen. And they want some help and support. And
do you think because a lot of accountants I've spoken to, and a lot of business owners actually, what happened during COVID has done quite a lot to reset the balance with accountants, or the value that clients perceive accountants to be able to deliver. So they're now looking at accountants in a way that they can help them get access to whether it be funding or better planning or forward looking. My view is that is one of the positives to come out of the situation with COVID. I think there's been whereas it was becoming very commoditized and very perfunctory, an accountant produced your accounts, they submitted your taxes, et cetera, and did very little more. Whereas they were the rescuer during that period. And the clients are starting to see them maybe in a slightly different light.
I think it for some absolutely, but I think there's in what I'm seeing is the clients are desperate for somebody to help them. And the accountants are not stepping up to the plate to do it. They're too scared to change. They're too scared to offer it. And sometimes they simply don't know how to help. Because their own business is in free fall. They're struggling with their own sales strategy. They're struggling with their own inefficiencies or being efficient. They're just struggling all over because they're not taking time out to go, how do we run our practice differently? And to keep bringing in more and more clients at these low levels is going to add more and more pressure. So you can't help.
And I think that it becomes a virtuous or a vicious circle, I should say. And the more efficiency that things like software or tech drives into your practice, the more clients you bring in, and it becomes self-fulfilling. So I think to your point earlier, one of the things I've talked to a lot of people about is, as you drive efficiency into the practice, you need to then stop, pause, and think about how do you use the time or the productivity that's freed up, and where do you allocate it? Is that going back into your existing customer base deeper with more fuller offerings, or to the other point that you made, do you dedicate it more towards marketing, sales, and kind of building your business, your practice as a business? I'd be really interested to learn from your point of view what value you place on running the practice as a business, and in particular sales and marketing, and how any tips or suggestions you've got for people listening about
that? In reverse order, sales and marketing is everything for every business, not just accountants, for every business. And if you're an accountant and you understand about sales and marketing, you can help your clients.
Yeah.
Because your clients often don't. They need direction and help, and they need to align the sales and marketing strategies with the budgeting and forecasting strategies with the actual strategy. So there's a really good in for any accountant.
Is it still a dirty concept for accountants?
Potentially, yeah. I think the accountants, and I'm talking generally, there's some really good people out there. There are some real good accountants out there, but there's a lot of accountants out there who believe that they can just keep going with this accounts and tax routine, take on more and more clients, and not even think about how they can help themselves and help their clients. And the change that happened to me was a good few years ago. So I've been doing this I changed my life around many years ago when I was asked a question, not directly, but on stage. I went to this conference and the guy stood on stage and I felt like he was just talking to me. And he said, would you take a 20% pay cut to get 80% of your time back? I'm like, sign me up. I have got no time. Sign me up. He didn't tell me what to do, but I went back and I looked at everything on an 80-20 principle. And I said to myself, do you know what? What would happen if I actually got rid of 80% of my clients and focused on the 20% and helped them a little bit more? And in doing that, along with other things around it as well, totally transformed what we do. So we used to have 450 clients with all the hassle and stress that goes with it. Now we've got like 92.
Right.
I work part-time. We charge fees of 10, 15, 20 times more than what the average accountant charges. Life is great. It's easy. And the results are great because we're focusing, and now this is back to marketing.
Yeah.
Okay. The key to your marketing strategy is to understand who your ideal client is. If you know who your ideal client is, and you know that the service that you provide to them, and I'm not talking about just accounts and tax, although it could be accounts and tax, because you can have ideal clients that you just do really good accounts and tax for, that you charge properly for and get paid for. Okay. And you get the right rewards for. You suddenly then have, in our case, 92 clients that we love. They're lovely people. We get on great with them. They never give me hassle. They never give me a hard time. They never email me. They never complain. They never, and they're happy to pay. Okay. But you've got to filter that out. And that's what your marketing strategy does, is just go after your ideal client. But if you take on, as I did when I started this journey 30 years ago, literally took on anybody and everybody, even whether they could pay or not, even, oh, you can't pay me, I'll do the job because one day you'll pay me in the hope that you might pay me. Guess what? They didn't. They don't. And I mean, there was one point that we had like 9 months sales caught up in work in progress and debtors. 9 whole months, and cash flow was just rubbish. And it's like, now everybody pays in advance, everybody pays monthly direct debit, really nice people to deal with, and it's all because we got the sales and marketing strategy right. Okay. I spoke to an accountant the other day. He wants to get 30 sales calls a month. What? I can't do 30 a year.
Yeah.
The type of service I want to charge and the type of clients that I want to deal with, I don't need that stress. And that then changes everything, because if you market to the right clients and pick off the ones that you want and go and sort of, literally cherry pick your ideal client out of the marketplace, there's loads of work out there. There's loads of business out there. There's no shortage of work. It's a shortage of staff, for God's sake. Well, solve that problem. Stop taking on more work, looking for more staff. Just take on less work, but higher quality. That's more enjoyable to do, that your staff will enjoy doing because the work is better, the clients are better. And you're going to get a bunch of people out there who are rubbish clients.
So I'm interested to just explore that a little bit further, Kev. So when you talk about, for somebody who hasn't done this, right? So let's say we've got somebody listening who's got the 450 clients, very time poor, they're kind of struggling with motivation or the ability to manage all of that, and they want to shift to a model where they've got fewer clients, they're more specific, their marketing campaigns are tailored towards a specific profile of customer. It's the profile that I'm really interested in. So how do they go about? What advice could you give? How do you go about? Do you do it by category? Do you do it by sector? Do you do it by size? What are the criteria for selecting your ideal client?
Your ideal client is, some of it is demographics, but most of it is psychographics.
Okay.
Most of it is the type of person they are, how they act, what they are like as a person.
Yeah.
Okay. Ultimately, my final point when I pick off my ideal client is this the sort of person I'd go out for dinner in the evening with and enjoy the evening?
Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is this the person I stand at a bar, have a few beers with and have a laugh with?
Yeah.
Okay. You got to meet me in my world and who I am and the sort of person I am. If you don't like me and I don't like you, let's just cut it. An awful lot of accountants will pick up clients and they have no idea whether they like them or not.
Yeah.
Because there's no conversation going on.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the first thing I would do is I would get my list, and this is what I did when I got that piece of information. I literally just said, right, I'm checked out, and for 4 days nobody could get hold of me.
Right.
I sat quietly with every single piece of tool I could use, spreadsheets and data and notepads, and I sat quietly and I just looked at all of the data that I had. I got Google Maps and I pinpointed where all my clients was, and guess what? 80% of my clients were in 20% of the places I went all the time. That sort of thing. I looked at all my fees, and I looked at who they were, and then I categorized them. And I went through this sort of list of questions that any good marketing company can give you, a list of questions to go through to identify what they call your perfect avatar.
Yeah.
And what we did is we identified them as Alex and Chris.
Right.
Alex and Chris is neither male nor female, but Alex is your perfect client. You'd love to spend some time with. You'd be a really good friend if you got to know them. Perfect client in every sense of the word, and the way that you operate and the way that you think. And Chris is the sort of person that basically you want to take a rusty spoon and dig your left eye out with, because you don't want them in your life. Now, as you bring those together, there's a bit in the middle of these clients that are like, well, I don't really know. Well, you need to get to know, you need to understand them, and you then set some rules. And instead of the rule being at 50%, the rule is more like at 80%. So 20% of the people come through, and 80% that don't come through. And if you take that top 20% of people that you already act for, and you go and talk to them, just ask questions, basic questions. How are you? How's life? What are you trying to do? Where are you aiming to go? What's your biggest challenge right now? Some of them will tell you. And then you go, okay. And the 3 questions I always ask is, and I need to answer yes to these 3 questions. The first question is, do I understand what your problem is? Whatever your problem is. The second question is, can I help you solve that problem? So if you've got a sales and marketing problem, can I help you? Yes, to a certain degree. The third question is the most important one. Do I want to?
Yeah.
And do I want to comes into the category of, do I like you?
Yeah.
Are you paying me enough? Are you my ideal client? Have I got time? All those sorts of things. If I can answer yes to those 3 questions, then you should be the perfect client coming through the door, and I'd love to help you. In which case, I'd love to help you. And guess what? When you have these perfect clients, you don't need to keep a timesheet.
Yeah.
You kind of do anything for them, because they're really nice people and they don't abuse your time, and so you do a bit of extra time sometimes. And I've got clients that pay for a monthly call with me.
Right.
They don't always book their monthly call with me.
Yeah.
But some months they'll book two calls. So what? Nobody keeps a tab on it. Everybody's cool about it because they're the right clients in my life, because they're getting results. That's what they're.
So apart from the kind of obvious, the compliance stuff, Kev, what would you say is what conversation, or what let's call it a product or service?
Yep.
What service do you offer that takes up most of the time that you allocate to work in any given week?
So I suppose the easiest way to describe it, it's about education and conversation.
Okay.
So we take the view that if you want to be one of our clients, rule number 1 is you're going to keep proper books.
Mm-hmm.
No prisoners, proper books.
Yeah.
And you're going to do it. I'm not going to do bookkeeping, but I'm going to teach you.
Yeah. Okay.
And I'm going to teach you to keep really good books. I'm going to teach you how to do budgeting and forecasting, and I'm going to teach you how to run your own budget and forecast if you want to. Mm-hmm. So there's a whole lot of education. In there, we'll teach you about all sorts of other stuff. We'll teach you about time management, using what we've learned about time management, skills that we've learned, tools that we've learned, tools that we share. So we'll teach about that. We'll, my wife Vicky is a professional coach, an executive coach.
Yeah.
So, show you some of the coaching skills, and we'll do some videos on coaching and mindset and those sorts of things. But whatever the clients are asking for, we'll fix those problems. Currently doing a set of videos all about sales and marketing, because we've just built a sales and marketing funnel. And so I'm going to do a whole load of videos on how I've done it, why I've done it, what's worked, what hasn't worked, just to share.
And do you push those out to the clients, or is there a website that they, or like a repository that they come to?
So we have a platform, our own platform for doing that. So we got our own membership site, so they can go in and they can watch all the videos and tune into those. And there's also a community in there, so they can ask questions and all the rest of it. And so we're sort of bringing everybody up to speed so that everybody's at the same sort of level. So if you can get the bookkeeping sorted, you get better questions.
Yeah, and is that baked into your fee, or is that an additional service? It's all baked in.
Yeah,
it's an interesting way to do it, because the things that you mentioned, things like forecasting, and even to some degree things like bookkeeping, a lot of accountants will charge for that rather than charge for the education of how to do that and actually make their lives easier on the back end.
Yeah, well, it doesn't, because the bookkeeping's not easy.
Yeah,
it is easy, but it's when the trouble is when it becomes easy, it doesn't become easy, because it becomes boring and dull and very uninteresting and pressure, because you've got a lot of it. So it's like, well, if we get all of our clients to do the bookkeeping and we help them do it, we will jump in and help them. So we had somebody the other day who was really getting in a muddle with bank reconciliations. So one of my team members just jumped in and sorted it all out. Then we did a video and said, look, this is what you did wrong. This is what you did. Because most people will only make one mistake and then just keep making the same old mistake. So we just fix all those. Okay. And by getting the client to take ownership of their books and records, ownership of their business, ownership of their decisions, then they come through for a call or a session together, either a group, so we can do group workshops and we can talk about certain things, or individually. The level of question that they ask, the quality of question they ask goes up another level. They're not asking me to explain why motor expenses was more than last year. You can figure that out. You just click the button and read it. I should be asking you those questions. And I get to the point where when we come to do the accounts, I'm really just, I've even got some clients who say, so what did you score me out of 10 for my bookkeeping this year? Oh, 9.5, but do you know, it's nigh on perfect. And therefore it goes into the system really, really quickly. We produce really good quality books and records. We don't leave any year-end journals out. They get done. We do all of our journals in the bookkeeping before we even throw them into the accounting system.
Right.
We talk about depreciation, dividends, tax, all done in the bookkeeping. So the client gets to see the results before we've even published them, because they're in their books. Right. They know that, we know that, but then the questions come out of it, and the questions, I've got a young lad at the moment. He sells kitchens and bathrooms, high-end kitchens and bathrooms. He's having a bit of a rough ride because he cannot get plumbers.
Right.
Okay. He's offering 50 grand a year for a plumber and he can't get one.
Wow. I'm in the wrong game.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, he has got so much work lined up. He cannot get trades, struggling to get materials. Right. As a result, he's got a cash flow problem. Okay. Right at the same time, 2 weeks ago, his wife's just had a baby, their first baby. So you can imagine, he's 30 years old. He's just had his first baby. The pressure is on him. The pressure, you can see it. Okay. So I spoke to him and I basically said to him, this is what we're going to do. And I got him to do a 30-day cash flow forecast so he can manage his own cash flow forecast. He was doing it on a spreadsheet. He then said, well, this is quite hard on this spreadsheet. I've done a bit of research. I've been and bought Flow. Great, go and use that. Never used it, but it looks pretty good on the tin. So he's got that. He's now doing his forecasting properly. His books are up together. And we are having a conversation every 2 days. Most of my conversations is, he's 30 years old. He's like one of my kids. It's like, okay, we got you here. We got you here. And I give him, this is what we're going to do over the next, I'm going to speak to you on Thursday, right? Between now and Thursday, this is what you're going to do. Or what do you think you're going to do? I think I need to do this. Great. Do this. All he's trying to do is meet payroll at the end of the month. Okay. Right now he's 10 grand short.
Right.
He's got to meet payroll by the end of the month. How do I help him? I don't know that I can. All I can do is give him a place to go for support, because he's like, where do I go? He's got nobody around him to give him that support, nobody around him to stop his head exploding. Okay. And sometimes that's the level of support people want. They're just like, I'm under so much pressure. I just need somebody to talk to or cry with or whatever.
I think particularly for small business owners, because they often haven't got anybody to have those conversations with. So it's a bit of a, it's a service beyond accounting, but,
and this is not, I mean, this is £1 million business. He's already got 6 members of staff. He's just got nobody to fit the blooming things. You know, and that's just one example of what happens. Now, we don't deal with everybody who's in crisis.
Yeah.
But even the people who are doing really well will come at you going, oh, it's brilliant, I've got all these sales. I'm busted.
That brings its own problems though, right?
Yeah, it creates another set of problems. And sometimes they just want to talk to somebody. And the way that I portray it with them is that what they want is a leader. Just most people, there's a guy called Dan Kennedy, who is a top marketing person in America. If anybody wants to learn anything about marketing, just go and get any of Dan Kennedy's No BS books. He's got a whole range of books on sales letters and marketing. That's a good starting point to learning marketing. And Dan Kennedy basically says most people are wandering around with an umbilical cord looking to plug it in somewhere. They just want some help.
Yeah.
They don't even know what that help and support is. They just want somebody to help and support. And interesting, that couple who have just literally 30th of June are turning in their second £1 million net profit with their business. 5, 6 years ago, 8 years ago, can't remember what it was now, a good few years ago, we were acting for them. We were looking after them. They were down to their last £12.50 in their bank account.
Wow.
And the phone call then was, fuck, this is hard.
Yeah.
This is hard. So what do we do? This is what we're going to do. And sometimes you do sometimes you've got like a 12-month plan to work with them. Sometimes you've got a 6-month plan. Sometimes you've got a 3-day plan. Sometimes you've got a 1-day plan, right between here and now. This is what we're going to do. So you don't know what you're going to do to help them. You're just going to help them. But if they're the wrong people, if the person on the phone is a complete arsehole, you're just, I don't want to help you.
Yeah. But I think the way you've described that, though, it's very obvious to me why you've got 90 odd clients rather than 450 clients. Because that's emotionally, there's a lot of time invested with each client. There's a lot of emotion invested and relationships are established with each client. So you can see why that model, you without having an army of Kevs, you'd struggle to kind of expand that model beyond.
Yeah. Other than the second part of what we're doing now is we're taking all of that knowledge that we've done with all these clients and the if you like, our top clients where they get us personally, we're taking that, we're disseminating that down into workbooks, into videos, into tutorials and help. And that's where the sort of membership platform is, that people can come in. That's why I wrote the book. The book in there is the entire model you can follow just in 80 pages. Yeah. So summarized it. So if you follow those 80 pages and you literally take notes about it, you could do everything that we're doing either as a business owner or as an accountant. You could look at it and go, I could help other business owners. There's no. Do you
find that acts as an opportunity generator for you as well? So people come in on that package and end up working with you?
Yeah, personally? I mean, we don't unless we get a recommendation for a client, we don't take on any client who's bought the book and come into the membership site. No client can actually become a client without actually booking a call with me, and they have to be some sort of fee-paying client before they even become an accountancy client. So there's deliberately a whole load of hoops in the way for people to jump through, because that helps filter out the ideal client. And when they come through, they don't. The clients that come through to me never come through and go, how much? That's too expensive. They all come through and just simply say, when do we start? When do we start? I just want to get this started. The price is irrelevant. As far as that. Now, that doesn't mean say economics don't kick in. If they can't afford it, they can't afford it. But what they can do is they can come in and watch all my videos. They can come in and go into our community page where we can converse that. We can give them all the help and support that they need to get them up to that next level. So yeah, we can help hundreds of clients this way. And long term, it's something that I want to do because as I get older and as life changes for me, I mean, currently
it's kind of evergreen content, isn't it? It can stay there forever.
We can grow this, and if somebody wants to take over from me, when I'm long gone, maybe they can. But the reality is that this is now building it out so that I haven't done a full week's work doing accountancy work for a long time. We're 3 mornings a week. That's it. That's all I need to do on accounting work, and that's deliberate because sometimes that stuff's a bit dull.
Well, look, I'm pretty sure we could talk for another hour, but we're running out of time, Kev.
That's good.
One last question, and then I want to give you an opportunity just to let people know how they can get in touch with you. But if you were to give one piece of advice, so one thing that anybody listening could kind of go away this afternoon or this morning, whenever they're listening to the recording, if they could go away with this one piece of advice and do something today to move them forward, what would it be?
One word. Stop. Just stop what you're doing. take some time out and think about what you're actually trying to achieve. That goes for employees of your practice as well. If you've got employees who are heading into stress season, no, this stress stuff is a killer. You've got to stop it. You've got to stop this stress. You've got to stop this massive need to do 80-hour weeks, 80% chargeable. Stop what you are doing. Analyze the crap of it. You're an accountant, for God's sake. Lead your clients by showing them that you can run a business.
Good advice. No, brilliant advice. And I agree. Stress is no joke. And I think accountants are the most diligent people on the planet, and they work harder than pretty much, and that's whether they're in industry, whether they're in practice, whether they're student, whatever. It doesn't matter. They are programmed to work all of the hours that they have to work to get the job done. And you're right. It's
but you have to lead and set examples. You have to show people that you are capable of running a successful business, and you will attract then people who want to run a successful business. And if you've got crappy clients, it may time to look in at what you're doing yourself. Fantastic advice, Kev. Right. Just very quickly, if people want to get in touch with you after they've watched the podcast, how do they go about it? Where can they find you? I have a really easy website to find. It's kevinwhitehouse.accountant. Fantastic. So everything's on there, all of your kind of social. Basically, you can go and get a copy of my book on there. It's only £4.99 and comes with the most incredible free offer as well, with a bunch of videos and training as well. It's £4.99 if you want to go and grab it. And on the other side, you might get an opportunity to speak to me. You're more than welcome to. That's the way to do it. Brilliant. Kev, thank you very much, mate. I really appreciate your time, and I'll speak to you again soon. Cheers. Thanks. Bye. Bye.